fellow rebel patriots. Hey, hope everybody's having a great day and a great week so far. Don't forget to follow me on X at x.com/brewmedia. Also, don't be a poser. Subscribe at my YouTube channel, youtube.com/@brewmedia. Please like the video, comment. We got to get it out there to the masses. Also, this is a warning for snowflakes, right? This is an actual melting site, right? This is where we discuss freedom, capitalism, sound money. This is where we push back against the globalist agenda and the tyranny within the duopoly, right? The thing to understand is I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat. I am just a fellow patriot here to help share the message of freedom and sound economic principles. Now, here's the thing that is very important. Nobody can buy me, right? I am not for sale. So when you get my opinion, you're actually getting my opinion and my knowledge. So anyway, I've been reporting for a long time how the economy has been in rough shape. And I have some new data that is not only concerning, but eye-opening as well. So when looking at the economy, there are certain areas of the economy that will show stress, right? And I like to look underneath the hood at certain things that you're not going to find on the legacy media channels, especially on the financial stations, right? That are all bought and paid for by their corporate masters and donors. So I like to catch stuff that the other economists miss. Because, again, most economists are nothing but paid shills working for the corporations that pay them. Luckily, I'm self-funded, so I can give you the real data. So check this out. So it turns out that the cardboard box industry is taking a nosedive at this moment. The thing to understand about the cardboard box industry is that it is actually a window into just how strong or how weak consumers really are in this country. Right now, there is a massive slowdown taking place in manufacturing cardboard boxes, and several manufacturing companies have actually already shuttered, and several others have already laid off employees. This is usually an early warning sign that shows that the economy is actually hurting. And something I want you to think about. You know, when cardboard manufacturing slows down, it is because consumers are expected to buy less, right? And this is happening right before the holidays, which is another warning sign in and of itself, which is telling you that the consumer is actually more tapped than what the government is saying. Now, let's look into the numbers. The industry has cut back, check this out, 9.5% in the past year. That is a massive drop that the media is not talking about and that you're only going to get right here. And so if you just kind of break it down real quick and think about it, right? So obviously if we had a booming economy, right? People are out there shopping, right? We're consuming more stuff, right? There would be a need for more boxes, right? When the cardboard box industry shrinks, that is usually a sign that no, people are not producing more, people are not consuming more, and that is a sign that the economy is actually shrinking, doing the opposite of what the government is telling you. Now, a lot of people out there saying, yeah, but Bobby, the GDP was high. How do you explain that? And I'm going to explain it. So just really quick. So imagine you're a company and you have 100 employees. And now those 100 employees, let's say, would do $100 billion, let's just say $100 million worth of commerce, right? Well, now let's say I get an AI program that can get rid of those employees, right? But now that AI program, instead of doing $100 million, right, could do $120 million without those employees, right? Now it shows up in the GDP. Oh, wow, look at all this business that we have. However, there's less people out there working, right? So you tell me, is that a good thing, right? Is that helping society, right? Is that a booming economy, right? When we're trading in human beings for machines and software? Of course not. And it's not only that, but Also, inflation hides a lot of the data within the GDP. For instance, it shows that consumers are spending more, right? However, what the GDP doesn't tell you, because of inflation and the destruction of the dollar, that you're actually coming home with less product, right? So it shows that the GDP has gone up, right? But it's not showing you that people are actually living with less, right? So that is just a quick little thing about that, in case anybody was wondering why those two things kind of butt heads with each other. And again, this is stuff that you will not find on Fox Business or CNBC, where they explain economics in this sort of fashion. But another indicator is the type of food that people eat, right? To show that the economy is slowing down. This is one area of capturing inflation data where the Federal Reserve and the federal government actually gets the CPI data completely wrong. Like the way that they supplement food and this sort of thing. Like yes, like I bought chop meat last week, right? And that chop meat was more expensive, right, than the chop meat I bought 2 years ago. But what they don't show you in the CPI is the amount of chop meat that you get is much less, right? And that's the part that they don't catch. A lot of times shrinkflation, they don't catch, especially in food. And so, yeah, your inflation is much higher than what they tell you. And that's because they manipulate the numbers and how they calculate the formula, especially in food prices, that are actually rising much faster than what they're telling you. But check this out. A brand new report has come out showing that millions of families are trading down in the type of meals that they eat. Now check this out. One food that is making a comeback is Hamburger Helper. Now, apparently they call this the struggle meal, but I am from the streets of New York, and what I remember being the struggle meal was Top Ramen. Like if you were like eating Top Ramen, like, you know, that was like the bottom of the barrel back in the day. But to me, Top Ramen is the type of food that I call a struggle meal. But anyway, Hamburger Helper is making a comeback. Now maybe Hamburger Helper is the stop people are making before they get the Top Ramen, right? So now at least with Hamburger Helper, you're going to get some beef, right? But I bet when things get really bad, they're not going to make the meal with beef, but rather with dog food, right? I believe eventually people are going to supplement beef with dog food. And just an FYI, if you read the labels on dog food, the manufacturers will put on the label human grade to let consumers know that it's okay to eat that type of food. And this is actually no joke, because usually in America, when times go hard, there's a huge spike in people getting desperate enough that they actually do start to eat dog food. And, you know, I really, you know what, I didn't look it up, but I'm kind of curious if we see a spike in dog food sales, right now or within the past year or so. And I'm going to look into that. I just thought of it just now. But also, another thing that's making a comeback are frozen pizzas, right? So the sales for frozen pizzas are on the rise. Look, pizza pies without toppings or any drinks are now averaging almost $20 a pie, right? Now, when you start adding in toppings and drinks, you can easily, without even batting an eye, hit $40. But that depends on where you live, right? Now, I told the story when I was in Vegas, literally on Fremont Street. We had a couple of slices. We had 3 slices of pizza and 2 sodas, right? It was over $50, right? And you wonder why people are like not going to Vegas and they can't afford to eat out. And look, I have money, but I don't want to blow $50 on 3 slices. I think that's complete bullshit. And so even if I have the money, I'm not going to spend it, right? Because I'm not a sucker, right? I'm not a fool, right? I don't want to just blow my money. And most people are like that. Now, obviously, if you're a parent, right, you don't want to give your kids, disgusting frozen pizza, right? That is like high in sodium, terrible for you, right? If you want to have a pie, right, and you want to treat yourself, you want to be able to get a fresh pie, right? What if you want to take a girl out on a date and you're like, hey, let's go get some pizza and a couple of slices and some soda, right? You don't want to blow $50, right, for that. That's ridiculous. Like, I'm old enough to remember when you can go to a movie, get popcorn, get drinks, go out to eat, get a few slices at night, have a few drinks, and that wouldn't even cost you $50. Right now, literally one meal for two is over $50. And this is what's crushing the American family, right? If you're a family of five, you can't afford this. This is completely outrageous. And for the administration or either party to pretend that this is somehow good for the economy or that we're having a good economy is complete BS. And that's why I'm here to call this nonsense out. And let's just be honest, a lot of families would rather just order a pie to the house, but they can't afford it, so they end up buying the frozen pies. Most people would rather to eat a fresh pie, but are buying frozen pizza out of desperation, just trying to feel a little normal, right? Also, another report that is out there that I put out there is how a lot of wealthier people are starting to trade down. So instead of going to higher price supermarkets, right? What it is, they're going to places like Walmart and the dollar store. And now the thing to understand about economics is that there's this thing called supply and demand. And, Walmart and the dollar store have limited supplies, right? And so when you start funneling more people into those stores, what happens is demand goes way up. And so what happens is then prices go way up. And the people who are getting clipped in the middle is the middle class and lower wage workers, people who are on disability or on Social Security, right? Retirees, seniors, right? They're watching prices at Walmart going through the roof. They don't know why. They think it's all corporate greed when actually it's basic economics, right? Supply and demand added with inflation is actually making things very, very expensive for the average family. And beyond that, I did another report on how the wealthy are not trading in their vehicles as much. And the number one reason why is because they're waiting for prices to come down. And I said in that report, hey, don't hold your breath. And also how middle class employees and lower class wage workers are also being forced to buy older cars with higher mileage, with riskier loans, right? They're taking out loans with higher interest rates. And again, nobody is dumb enough to buy a considered what I would consider a beater, right? A car with 150, 200,000 miles. The darn thing has 5 to 7 year loan on it. Extremely high interest rates, right? Nobody is stupid enough to buy a car like that. But in this economy, a lot of families are forced to buy a car like that. They don't want the car. They don't even like the car. How many people buy a car? They didn't even like it, right? And now they're tethered to this ridiculous payment that they can't afford. But if they don't buy the car, then they can't get to work, right? See how it's like a spiral, right? Like now they can't afford a fresh pie, right? Now they're buying frozen pizza, right? And they're shopping at the dollar store, and they can't afford a decent car with a decent interest rate, right? And so all of these things are pushing middle class, lower wage workers and seniors out into the street, right? And the thing to understand when somebody buys a car like that is that, the maintenance on those cars has gone up. I did a report where the insurance, not the insurance, the mechanic is getting something like 35% more than he got just a few years ago. And also the parts are up another 40%. And that's just like in the past year or two, right? And so they're not only paying more for these older cars, but just to keep them on the road is hammering these people. And that is not a strong economy. Also, another sign that the economy is struggling we right now are seeing a spike in people taking out refinancing their mortgages. And what they're doing is they're claiming on the application that it's for home renovations. And actually, when you dig into what they're actually doing, they're not renovating their homes. They're using the money to pay medical bills and other debts just to get by, right? Now, I want you to think about this, right? Think about how desperate you have to be to refinance to a higher interest rate, right? Where the average increase in payment per month goes up $500 a month, right? Nobody with the right brain, right sense of mind would trade in a 2 or 3% mortgage rate, okay, for a 6 or 7%, unless these people are actually desperate. And, and we are seeing people that are very desperate. And so anyway, so I wanted to talk about, somebody had shared a story with me that they sold a home in the Jersey Shore back in 2022. And this home needed 3 people. They needed 3 incomes in order to get the mortgage. And so my buddy who went back to look at that house to find out, hey, these people still in there, what's going on? It turns out that the home was foreclosed on last year. And it turns out the reason why it was foreclosed was because one of the applicants had passed away, right? Now, first you have to ask yourself, why is the bank giving a loan, right? Why are we backing? Why is the federal government backing a loan where it needed 3 people to be on that loan who obviously, if something happened to one of them, they would lose the house, right? And, so that deal not only ruined those people, right, but also gives risks to everybody else, right, that is out there as a taxpayer, right? We shouldn't be backing these loans, right? But I'm going to make another video on that in the future, why the government should not be backing mortgages. And let me tell you something. This thing about a lot of people pooling together to buy a home is actually more common than you think. So check out these numbers. Over 26.7% of home buyers are what they call co-buyers. 90% of the co-buyers, check this out, have up to 4 people on the application. These are not people that are married or even have a relationship. These are groups of individuals pulling together just to try and buy a home because they have swallowed what the government has been telling them in the media. Oh, you're nobody if you don't own a home. You should give a liver and a lung just to keep a house. When actually, for most people, and especially if you need 4 people to get a house, you're better off renting, right? Because again, it is not healthy economically for 4 individuals to come together to buy a single dwelling. First off, don't you want any independence to live on your own? The fact that you have to pool together, right, just to get the mortgage should first off tell the mortgage processor, hey, these people should not be buying a house. The federal government should say, we're not going to back that loan. That is way too risky, right? And these people should have more common sense to not put themselves in a situation where, God forbid, somebody gets sick or hurt in that scenario, right? Because they're going to lose everything, right? But more importantly, a strong economy wouldn't need 4 people on the application, right? A strong economy would need just 1 employee or worker, right, to purchase that house, right, to get approved, right? That was a strong economy. That's the economy I grew up in. And that's the economy that's been destroyed. And so I wanted to bring that up as well. So I want to give one last sign that the economy is actually a lot more stressed out than what the media and administration or both parties are telling you. When you have a strong economy, employees will actually job hop more often because they are confident that they can find another job. But when the economy slows down, people are not willing to take a chance to leave the job that they're sitting at in fear that they might not be able to find another job. Employees went from high confidence to fear of losing their job. In fact, the rate of people quitting their job has dropped to the lowest levels in 5 years. Now you have to think about it. That was the COVID days, right? Which everyone was scared and wasn't sure what was going to happen. Well, actually, I kind of understood where the economy was going a lot better than other people. And when they say in the media, oh, nobody could ever predict this, well, I've predicted a lot of it. And that's why you're tuning into this, because you know that I've seen a lot that has happened, and I'm showing you where we're going in advance. Well, the thing is that many employees today have those same fears that they had back in COVID, and that is because they are struggling to pay their bills and don't see any other new opportunities to make a move somewhere else. Just so everyone knows, one of the biggest indicators of a strong economy is how confident employees are, and they're just not confident right now. Anyway, I wanted to share these numbers with you and statistics. Listen, you're not going to hear this on Fox News, MSNBC, CNBC, Bloomberg TV, Fox News, Newsmax. Here's the truth. We are the true rebel patriots. We are here fighting for individual liberty, prosperity, right? We don't believe in theft, especially when the government does it, right? If it's not right for you to steal, it's not right for the government to steal either. We believe in sound economic principles, and most of all, we believe in freedom. Don't forget, follow me at x.com/brewmedia. Also, again, don't be a poser. Go to youtube.com/@brewmedia. That's where you're going to find the latest and greatest economic updates and news. I appreciate you. God bless. Leave a comment, like, share, follow. I love you. I'll see you in the next one. Take care.